I think there are subjective truths, and I do think that there are certain objective truths that are reproducible universally. And I think, there are certain truths that when we search deep down in ourselves, we know are true, whether we follow them or not. So, like, it's pretty obvious you shouldn't take the life of somebody else, right?
Yes.
I would say objectively, most human beings coming out the womb kind of know that already.
Yeah.
You don't really need to teach them that. They just kind of know, like, I probably shouldn't kill anybody,
Yeah.
And you just kind of know that. And then, you could teach, don't do it, or you could teach, do it. And you could convince people either way.
Yeah.
But I think deep down, we all know what's wrong. We know it's wrong to, like, take somebody else's shit, Although you could argue, though, as a child, before you have any sense of anything, with certain things, you really don't know anything,
right.
So, like, some kids, like, everything's mine. And then they cry if you take it from them,
Yeah.
So I think there is, like, some aspects of it that just when your brain's not fully developed. But I would argue that once your brain's fully developed, like, what's right and wrong, but
Yeah. Well,
you can't ever get
also
somebody
psychopathology and like sociopaths and but those
Sure.
are small, very small.
And that's
percentage.
also, I would argue, a defect.
Right.
You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like, that's not a fully functioning human being.
I
That's
totally
a fucking,
think that.
That's like a broken human being. Yeah.
Right.
And we all can be broken in some way without actually being broken.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But exactly how much credit can you take for not being a psychopath, though?
I take credit every day for not being.
Yeah, but like when you really break it down, like
yeah.
if it's something like if you don't have a broken brain, you're very neurotypical.
Sure.
Like, really, how much credit can you take for that?
I can take credit for the statistics that I was going to be born normal. You know what I mean? Yeah. No, there's not much credit you can take for that. You can't take credit for anything genetic.
Yeah.
You deal with what you deal with. Like you said, you don't choose your parents. So
right. And that's like, that's where like the concept of like not thinking that you have, free will. And I'm not 100% one way or the other. It's just a fun exercise to do.
It is.
I think that, I forgot where I was going with this. Oh yeah. It can spur up a lot of empathy too. Like it basically shows you that like there are people who are just born unlucky.
Totally.
In this world.
Yeah. Just fucked from birth.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of compassion that can come from that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would argue that, so this is where we're going to kind of get into a little bit of politics here, but I would argue that there's two different frames of mind about that. There's the let them rot, let them figure it out, fuck them, I'm not paying for them.
Conservative.
Yeah. And then there's the, we should try to find ways to help them because they can't really help themselves.
Right. I feel like that follows from the free will argument or the lack of free will argument. And a lot of people think that it doesn't or it can't. So I think that like you fundamentally see that there are some people who are just born unlucky, whether it's genetics, whether it's, stuff in society, everything is happening.
Sure.
And there are people who are just not as lucky as other people. And we should correct for that. Absolutely.
Yes. On a societal level. Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
We bear the burden of them.
Right.
We bear the burden of their suffering because they're going to act out their suffering through behaviors with other people, through interactions with other people.
Yeah.
And due to the nature of everything being interdependent and interrelated, you are going to feel the effect of that some way or another. 6 degrees of separation is real. So the fact that we have, loose connections with probably everybody in the world on some level, whether we just know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy or, whatever, you're still somewhat related to them, which means the effects, the negative effects of some person and the positive effects of some person can find its way back to you. Now, it might be on a microscopic level in terms of the influence on you in a day-to-day basis, and it might be a macro level where it's just somebody close to you that their negative behavior is directly affecting you.
Yeah.
But either way, we're all affecting one another on a global scale. And on a universal scale,
For sure.
The universe is affecting all of us, through the rotation of the sun and the planets and, the galaxy itself and all the other galaxies. If you really look at it, they're all related to each other. And this is where, you could make an argument for astrology that there are some things that probably are affected by the rotation and the spins of other planets.
Yeah.
I'm a major skeptic of astrology as a whole,
Yeah.
but I think the concept of it is not ludicrous. It's not crazy to think that, being born at a certain time of day or year or whatever might actually have an effect on you. I don't know if it has an effect on you beyond that moment in that moment, but, it might have an effect on you long term, and we just don't know. It's hard to calculate things with this many variables and with this much complication in the universe. Things are too complex. It's impossible to break the shit down. And because you can't break something down without the other, you're going to be never ending trying to find, as like Alan Watts puts it, is like, oh, well, this happened to me because my mother dropped me, and my mother dropped me because she's a neurotic. And, and you could just keep going for fucking ever. And then her mother was terrible and blah, blah, blah. And, so there is a point where it's like, well, you're never going to be able to define these things because it's impossible to nail down one thing. And so you can just find the relationships that make the most sense and that are closest to you. But the second you start getting farther away from that immediate vicinity, it becomes incomprehensible and potentially impossible to understand the effects that those things are going to have on you.
Yeah, definitely.
But with more data and information, maybe we can learn it, with AI and technology and all the information that we're getting from our phones and from being spied on by Google and and Amazon and everything, that information might help us find the key to the nature of the universe just by us being able to observe so many things that we just would be blind to normally, that these instruments now can record.
Think about it like that. That's cool. It's a good thought.
Right?
Yeah.
I just thought of it right now. Yeah. But honestly, like, why couldn't that information not help give us greater context to the larger existence of existence?
Yeah, I think more people focus on the negative, detrimental stuff, or like their privacy and all that. And which are valid concerns.
I'm very privacy conscious, and that shit does worry me.
Yeah.
But also, that's $1 trillion industry. Trillion, probably more than $1 trillion.
Bajillion.
Honestly, probably $1 bajillion, which isn't a real number. But like, think about how much power that is for somebody to know what you'll do before you do it, before you know that you'll do it. You want to talk about not having free will.
Yeah.
Your decisions are so predetermined by your preferences and all these other things, and then what's being shown to you and the ads that are pushed in your direction and all this other stuff. Who knows how many things you've been pushed to buy because of Facebook, Google, Amazon, all these people collecting data and showing you shit that you might like. How many times have you bought something that has been that?
Right.
I would venture to guess a lot of people have bought a lot of shit. Yeah. So that's $1 trillion industry because you're basically controlling the wants and the needs of the average person. That's scary. That's scary for an unregulated company.
Yeah.
To have that kind of power.
Yeah, I agree.
On everyone.
Yeah.
They know your browsing history. They know where you've been every day. Use Google Maps to track it. Boom. They got every fucking trip you've ever made.
Ugh.
Terrifying.
I use Apple Maps. And they
drove you into a lake, right?
Yeah. Well, it's actually, so it's not.
It's gotten better.
It used to be really, really terrible.
It used to be really bad.
But I think that they've said that they destroy the data after you end a session.
They do.
That's why I really
They do.
Apple is the only company or tech company that seems to be like really making an effort. I mean, they're not perfect. They have they've got a lot of like stuff in China that is shitty. But like they're generally a pretty good company.
Sure. And I would say that because their business model does not operate on selling your data.
Mm-hmm. But I think if they
don't need to.
No, but if they did, I wonder if they would like flip. Like if that was like something that they could make a ton of money off of, would they do it? Would Tim Cook do it?
Well, they already can if they wanted to.
That's true.
Right?
But they
they have to change the terms of service. But like
nobody will read it anyway.
You just hit agree. But it's true. It's like their business model operates mostly on subscriptions.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk too much about Apple, but like they operate on subscriptions, iTunes, Apple Music, Netflix through the iTunes store. Like you can kind of pay for a lot of these things through iTunes. They get a cut of that for hosting in the app and paying your subscriptions. Then they make money off of their services. They make money off of repairs, of course. Not probably take losses on repairs, but but in general, like they sell hardware, they sell software, and then they sell services. None of which need to sell your data, and all of which have made them an almost $1 trillion company.
Yeah.
So they don't need to, and it would hurt their brand more to sell your data. So I think, not that they wouldn't, it's a company.
Yeah.
No companies are ethical, okay? Companies are companies, and they just want to make profit. But if it wouldn't kill their brand and they would make significantly more money, yeah, they would do it. 100%.
Yeah.
But they're in the space now where they don't need to, and that separates them from the other companies. Therefore, in a world where people are getting increasingly more concerned with their data and their privacy, that they're going to win out that argument every time, and they'd rather keep that position in the marketplace for now.
Right.
So we'll see.
We'll see.
But I'd imagine all companies will cave to that $1 trillion industry eventually.
Yeah.
And that data was something that we didn't realize how valuable it was going to be. And now here we are, where we really need to start putting some legislation in that give people the power back to sell their own data. Like, yo, I should be getting a paycheck every month for my fucking data. Literally. I should be getting paid $1,000 a month. You want to talk about UBI? I should be getting $1,000 a month for my data.
Yeah.
Oh, you want to sell me products and shit, and that's a fucking gold mine? All right, I'll let you if I'm getting a cut of this shit.
Yeah.
You can't just steal my info because I use the internet. I'm not going to not use the internet.
Well, then you're kind of selling out a little bit too.
I think you should be allowed to. I think everybody should be allowed to sell their data to who they want to, and they should have control over that data profile. There's a data profile on you that is potentially millions of points of data, if not billions of points of data, that make you who you are, what you're inclined to buy, when you're about to buy something, all that stuff, right? You should control that profile, and you should get to choose who you share it with, right? I don't think there's a radical idea.
I don't think that any of it should be happening, but no, it's not a radical idea.
Yeah, I don't think it's a radical idea at all. Not too radical, Joe. Not too radical.